Hello, I'm Chris Ruddick with the American Heart Association, and I'm the director for Hard Hats with Heart. I want to thank you for joining us on Zoom and Facebook Live today for our July Toolbox Talk focused on the life-saving skill of CPR and AED use. We're really excited to have Tammy Matthews from Wade Trim presenting today and sharing this important skill with us. We also want to invite you to join us at our 5th annual Hard Hats with Heart event on October 28th. And also know that if you're interested in CPR training opportunities, after today's presentation, there will be the opportunity to rent these CPR training kits from the Carhart Workshop. And we're now going to go to the Carhart Workshop to hear from Tammy.
Hello, my name is Tammy Matthews, and I'm speaking to you today on behalf of the American Heart Association and Wade Trim, where I work as the safety manager. Today, I'm live at the Carhart Workshop in downtown Detroit. Thank you to the American Heart Association of Metro Detroit and Carhart for allowing me to host this important Toolbox Talk. Your commitment to the community and the overall mission of the American Heart Association drives impactful change in our communities. According to the American Heart Association, 1 in 25 construction workers has cardiovascular disease, 1 in 4 is obese, 1 in 4 uses tobacco, and 1 in 25 has diabetes. The AHA in Michigan is bringing Hard Hats with Heart to several construction industry employers to provide resources, education, and inspiration to help employees live a heart-healthier lifestyle. The topic of today's Toolbox Talk is CPR and AED use in the construction industry. Having a dependable CPR team makes sense for any construction company. With the unique demands of construction work, employees are subject to any number of potential hazards, including accidents with heavy equipment, ditches and trenches, overhead loads, and many more. The stresses of construction can increase the chances one of your employees or coworkers will experience a medical emergency. Did you know construction workers' dual occupational hazards of physical labor and job pressures place them in one of the highest risk categories for cardiovascular injury? Did you know that electrocution, which can lead to cardiac arrest, makes up 82% of construction deaths? That is why it is so important that construction workers and crew members know how to perform CPR and use an AED. You see, the only definitive treatment for sudden cardiac arrest is effective CPR and a life-saving shock from an automated external defibrillator, or AED. The survival rate increases from 6% to 74% if an effective CPR and defibrillation are delivered within the first 3 to 5 minutes. Immediate CPR can even triple the survival rate of cardiac arrest victims. The average time for emergency medical services to arrive at the scene is 7 minutes. For a victim of cardiac arrest, this can be too late because for every minute that passes without treatment, the victim's chance of survival decreases by 10%. Construction sites are not always easy to access, which can increase the time it takes the emergency medical personnel to arrive at the scene on a construction site, ultimately reducing the victim's chance of survival. This is why it's important that as soon as you think someone is in cardiac arrest or unable to breathe and has collapsed, you should immediately determine whether he or she is breathing. If the victim is breathing, you know that he has a pulse. If the victim is not breathing, begin rescue breathing and chest compression or CPR and an AED if one is on the premises. So when should you perform hands-only CPR and when should you use an AED on the job site? I'm now going to demonstrate how to respond in this situation. You never know when you will have to use CPR or an AED. So now we're going to go over the steps of CPR and how to hook up an AED. First of all, if someone collapses, you need to get them to a place where you can give them CPR, but it has to be a safe place where you or the victim are not in harm's way. The first thing you want to do is make sure that the person needs CPR. So you want to check and see if they're okay. And the best way to do is tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? If they don't respond to you, check for breathing. If they're breathing, leave them there and get 911 there as quickly as possible. If they're not breathing, then it's time to start CPR. Now that we're ready to give someone CPR, how do we do that? You place your hands mid-chest. So you will link your hands together, place them mid-chest, keep your elbows stiff, but a little bent so it's not too uncomfortable. Get good leverage over them and pump. You are going to pump at a rate of about 100 beats per minute, which is what I just demonstrated. There are a lot of songs that people say that you can use, including the song Staying Alive, as you're giving this. You are going to give 30 chest compressions 5 times. Once you have done that, each set 5 times, you're going to check for breathing. If the person is breathing, then you do not need to give any more CPR. If the person is not breathing, you need to continue giving CPR until professional medical help arrives or you have an AED. Now I'll demonstrate using this AED trainer how to hook up an AED. This isn't exactly like the ones that you would have out on your job sites, but it's very similar and works in the same manner. Essentially, all AEDs work the same, so it doesn't make any difference which brand it is. They will come with connectors like this that you're going to have to take out of the package and plug in. There will be an AED unit, which is actually where the charge will come from if the AED is going to give a charge. And there will be pads. The greatest part about AEDs is you don't have to remember a whole lot because on the pads, it tells you where to place them. So the first thing you're going to have to do with this is hook the pads up to the defibrillator. It does not make any difference which one you use to hook it up to, which lead. Okay, so the pictures show you're going to place one pad on the person's side like this, and you're going to place the other pad like that. You're going to make sure that everyone is clear. So make sure, and yourself too, you'll turn on the AED.
Analyzing heart rhythm.
The
Do
AED.
not touch the patient. Shock advised. Charging. Stay clear of patient. Deliver shock now. Press shock delivered. Begin CPR.
You probably noticed the beeping after it said begin CPR. That is the correct rhythm for CPR strokes. You want to go about 2.5 inches in compression on the person's chest. Now you have to realize most people are going to be wearing shirts. With all AED kits, they will come with scissors, and they will also come with a shaver in case you have a gentleman who has a very hairy chest. You need to shave it because you want to get the best possible contact with the person and the unit. You're probably going to have to cut through women's bras and other things like that. If they have nipple rings, you're probably going to have to remove them if you can. If not, it's not going to be a really big deal. You just want to make sure that they're not touching metal if you're going to administer a shock. As I said before, the easiest thing about an AED is that it kind of walks you through the steps. And again, you're going to continue to give CPR for either two reasons. One, the person revives. Two, medical help arrives. If there's another person or persons on site, it really helps a lot if you can switch off giving CPR to them. I recommend that you do this at the end of that 5 cycles of 30 compressions. So just switch people and get the next person in. It is exhausting to give CPR, but just think of the benefits. You've saved someone's life. So many years ago, when I was just starting my career, I was working with a man who was using an electric arc welder. Somehow he got tangled up in his arc and started to experience cardiac arrest. I was able to get him out of the arc by using the standard method they teach you, take a piece of wood and knock him out. But then I had to remember my high school CPR because this was long before I worked in safety and health, and took it and now train in it year after year. So this gentleman collapsed. He was not breathing. And after contacting emergency services, I went ahead and gave him CPR. I'm not sure at this time if I gave him the right number of compressions or even did anything right about it, but he did survive. The professionals arrived fairly quickly, probably within 10 minutes, and took over from me. And of course, they had an AED and everything. But we were on a pretty remote construction site, and it worked out really well. Unfortunately, it could have been the other way, and I'm happy to say that it wasn't. However, I'm just proud of my efforts to help somebody, and that's the way we have to look at it. Our effort is really worth it. If it saves someone's life, great. If it doesn't, they weren't going to survive anyway, and we have to remember that. So it's well worth learning CPR and AED skills for ourselves, for our family members, and for others on our job sites. Remember, the best way to protect workers from a fatal medical event or cardiac arrest is CPR knowledge and the number of AEDs available. The Carhart Workshop, located in Midtown Detroit, is living the mission of the American Heart Association. In an effort to save lives, CPR kits are now available for rent right here in the Carhart Workshop. The address and phone number is on the screen. Thank you again for joining us today. I'm now going to answer some of your questions. The first question is, how do you know CPR is effective? The truth is, you don't know unless the person survives, and you may not even find out until much later or not at all. The important thing is that you took the first step to help that person survive. Can you do CPR wrong? No, as long as you follow the basic instructions and keep pumping the heart, you're going to be getting blood and oxygen to the brain where it's needed. One thing that you probably want to be aware of is that most times when people are administered CPR, some of their ribs may break or crack. That's normal. One of the ways that medical professionals tell that someone has been given CPR is because they notice the ribs in a certain area are broken or cracked. Don't worry about that. Having a broken or cracked rib is much easier than not surviving at all. Thank you to the American Heart Association of Metro Detroit and Carhartt for putting together this important Toolbox Talk conversation today. Your commitment to the community and the overall mission of the American Heart Association drives impactful change in our communities. It's important to remember that without effective CPR and defibrillation, a cardiac arrest victim has very little chance of survival. Having an AED on site and educating staff on how to use one in an emergency will ensure a construction site is prepared for the event of a cardiac emergency. If you would like to get in contact with me, my email address is tmatthews@wadetrim.com, or you can visit our website, which is listed here. Lastly, the American Heart Association is dedicated to sharing real stories. If you are a construction worker who would like to share your story of dealing with cardiac disease, mental health issues, depression, or stroke, you can send your story to ebony.bagley@heart.org. Thank you again, and have a safe and wonderful day, Detroit.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's Toolbox Talk. We hope that you enjoyed it and found it helpful. We look forward to seeing you in our next Toolbox Talk, which will be on August 17th and will be on stress and mental health in the construction industry.